4,000 years ago, in the city of Ur, in modern-day Iraq, there lives a man named Abram. Abram lives with his wife Sarai and his father, Terah. Abram is a God-fearing and pious man who trusts God and tries to live in accordance with his will. They moved to the land of Haran, in modern-day Turkey. Here, Terah dies at age 205. Then, God tells Abram and Sarah to move to the land of Canaan with their nephew, Lot, and so they do. God promises Abram that the land of Canaan, in modern-day Israel, Syria, Lebanon, and Jordan, will belong to his descendants. Years later, there is a famine in Canaan, and Abram travels to Egypt with Sarai. Abram knows that the Pharaoh will think Sarai is beautiful and suspects that he will kill him in order to marry her. Therefore, Abram and Sarai tell the Pharaoh that they are siblings. Sarai briefly stays with the Pharaoh, and he gives Abram luxuries and livestock in return. However, God afflicts the Pharaoh's household with hardships and illness. The Pharaoh is determined to discover the cause of this, and he learns that Sarai is a married woman. Thereafter, he refuses to let her stay with him. Abram and Sarai return to Canaan, very wealthy. Lot moves east to a city named Sodom. An army from the land of Elam invades Sodom and takes Lot and his family as prisoners. Abram assembles a small army of 318 servants and defeats the invaders against all odds. His army slays the Elamite king, he rescues Lot and his family, and then he returns the goods that were stolen to Sodom. He is rewarded by the king of Sodom. Abram returns to Canaan, where God speaks with him. God tells Abram that his descendants will be more numerous than the stars, and that they will one day be enslaved in Egypt. This confuses Abram. Although he and Sarai had always wanted children, they were never able to conceive. However, Abram's faith and trust in God never falters. Sarai is infertile, but she wants to let Abram have an heir. Therefore, she allows her Egyptian handmaiden, Hagar, to sleep with Abram. Once Hagar is pregnant, relations between her and Sarai grow bitter, and Hagar flees. God speaks to Hagar and tells her to return to Abram and Sarai and to name her son Ishmael, which she does. Then, God speaks to Abram again. This time, he promises a son through Sarai. The son, along with the promised land between Egypt and the Euphrates, would be given to Abram if he obeyed God. Abram's descendants would be numerous and blessed, so long as they continued to worship God. God also renames Abram Abraham, meaning father of many, and Sarai Sarah. The new names will serve as a symbol of the covenant. One day, 3 men who represent God's will appear to Abraham and Sarah. Abraham invites them in for a meal. The men tell them that Sarah will have a son. Sarah laughs at this, because she thinks it is impossible. Not only has she never been able to get pregnant, but she is now 90 and Abraham is 100 years old. The men tell her not to laugh, as anything is possible with God. The 3 men tell of God's plan to destroy the cities of Sodom and Gomorrah, as their citizens have sinned and rebelled against God. Abraham pleads with God for the destruction not to occur, because he considers it unjust to destroy the cities if it would harm any moral people. God tells him that he would spare the city if only one righteous man resided there. The 3 men stay at Lot's home in Sodom, and they tell him to flee with his family before the destruction, and not to look back. Sulfur rain begins to fall on Sodom, and Lot and his family flee. However, Lot's wife turns back to look at the destruction. Upon looking back at the burning city, she is turned into a pillar of salt. Several months later, Sarah gives birth to Isaac. Several more years go by, and Sarah learns that Ishmael has been mistreating Isaac. She tells Abraham to send Hagar and Ishmael away to Egypt where Hagar is from, and he obeys. God speaks to Abraham again. This time he tells him to kill Isaac as a sacrifice on an altar on a mountain in the land of Moriah. The request is the test of Abraham's faith. For if Abraham were to kill his son, whom he loved, solely because of God's command, then Abraham would prove the strength of his faith. Abraham and Isaac travel for 3 days, and when they arrive, Abraham ties the confused Isaac to the altar. Then he prepares to sacrifice him. Just as Abraham is about to kill Isaac, the angels of God intervene. The angels say that God did not intend for Abraham to actually sacrifice Isaac, and it is revealed to Abraham that the request was simply a test of his faith and a manner of determining the lengths to which he would go in order to obey God. God provides a ram to be sacrificed in Isaac's place. After many more years, Sarah dies. Abraham's servant is sent to Assyria to find Isaac away. God guides the servant to Rebekah, whom Isaac later marries. Abraham dies at age 175. He becomes the ancestor to many Israeli tribes.